This video is brought to you by BetUs Sportsbook and Casino.
Who else? Hold on. I'm all over the place. Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. I'm all over the place. I literally got home like 30 minutes ago. My laptop is acting crazy right now. And it does not want to cooperate. So I'm going to restart it. And yeah, had my flight delayed twice. It was raining biblically in Charlotte. And so they pushed my flight back twice. I thought I would have been home by 9. This stream would have been up by 10, 10:30 at the latest. You know how it goes. Life happens. But I literally watched the game, the preseason game, for the first time in its entirety today, right? So all of this is new to me, right? Because I just knew I was going to be able to watch the game on Sunday, right? I had it recorded on YouTube TV. I thought I would be able to watch it. And I go to fire it up, and YouTube TV's like, sorry, you can't watch this in the area that you're in. We don't service over there. So just like that, I was boxed out of the game, and I had to resort to watching these terrible cut up clips. And, you know, that's not how I operate. I can't operate in that space. It's not who I am. It's not how I do business. So I knew it wasn't going to work for me. So I was just like, I got to wait until I'm somewhere where I can see the entire game, watch it, break it down, take notes like I always do. So I had a chance. And you know what? Honestly, the delays at the airport pretty much helped me watch the game to where I could, you know, digest everything without having to be at home to do it. So it saved me time in that regard, but I would have rather have been at home and had to do the rest of the game at home than to be at the airport and have it take as long as it did. But at the end of the day, I'm here. I'm blessed to be here. I'm so glad to be back at home. And, you know, God got me back home. Safe travels. Everybody's home. Mom and dad are the only two still on the island, and they'll be back from the Rock on Wednesday. So I feel great. I'm refreshed. Had a great time. We'll talk more about that on the podcast. I got some stories to tell. You know, anytime I go somewhere, I got some stories to tell. We'll do that on the podcast tomorrow for those of you who give a rat's ass. However, I know why you showed up tonight. You want to talk about Washington Commanders. So do I. So obviously the big news of the day. I'm going to save a lot of that stuff for tomorrow. Ron. DQ's press conference, Jayden Daniels press conference from today. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. I'm going to break that down on a separate live stream tomorrow. There's some other topics that came out while I was gone that I want to talk about that I haven't had a chance to talk about. I'm going to do that on a separate one tomorrow as well. Like the schedule for the uniforms came out, when they're going to wear them, et cetera, et cetera. I got some interesting comments about some of the dates and some of those things. So I want to do all that on a separate stream tomorrow. But tonight, I just want to focus on the joint practice, what was said prior to the joint practice, and then the game itself. A lot of interesting takes from the game. So I want to kind of focus in on all of that stuff, and then we'll get to your comments if you have anything to say, because I know a lot of you probably do have a lot of things that you would like to say, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. So we'll talk about all of those things and then some. But let me just get settled in here, and man, I feel like I've just been going and going and going and going. So my wife was like, why are you doing a show tonight? And I'm like, I told them I was going to do a show tonight. That's why. If I would have known I was going to have my flight delayed twice, I wouldn't have told you guys I was doing a show. But once I felt like I told you I was doing a show, I felt like I owed you a show. So here we are. But all right, laptops fired up. Let's see. Yeah, laptops fired back up. So that's up and running. All right, hold on. I gotta mute that. There we go. So, all right. Starting to get my setup back in order. Kids were destructive while I was gone. My wife was like, look, you're gonna have to fix your camera, you're gonna have to fix your light. They knocked all that stuff down while I was gone. So I'm still trying to get everything back to the way that it was before I left. So all right, let's jump into it, man. I'm so glad to be back in the saddle, and I'm so glad to have you guys joining me. Sorry for such a late stream, but you know how it goes. Life happens. So I want to go all the way back to last Thursday. DQ had a presser, and I'm not going to go through the press conference like I normally would with a fine-tooth comb when I do it the day of. I just want to give you some of the cliff notes and get into specific things that he talked about during his press conference that I felt like were notable enough to mention, being that it's now Monday or Tuesday if you're on the East Coast. So it had to be important for me to mention it now after having almost had a half of a week elapse since this was said. But he talked about putting players in uncomfortable situations that you normally wouldn't do very often in game situations, just to see how they react, and respond. And it made me think of Emmanuel Forbes, because I've been telling you guys this over and over again. Like, a lot of these times you see, like, Benjamin St. Juice on the touchdown he gave up to River Craycraft. I'm not saying that they're not going to ask him to play man-to-man coverage at all at any point. Him, Emmanuel Forbes, whomever's out there. I'm not telling you that that's not what they're going to do. What I'm telling you, though, is some of these situations where you see them playing man-to-man with no help over the top, and they're putting them in these situations to see how they're going to respond, to see if they can hold up in those situations. And if you can't, then I'll know when we get to the regular season not to put you in those situations very often. Look, there's going to come a time, just like, John Comm talked about this on the program here when we were discussing, Andrew Wiley in particular. There's things you can do to offset Andrew Wiley. And we're going to talk about Andrew Wiley because he had a rough go of it in Saturday's preseason game. But there's things you can do to offset Andrew Wiley. You can put a tight end over there to help double team. You have the tight end chip on his way out. You have the back chip on his way out. You can do things. You can slide the line his way. You can do things to mitigate the fact that you have a guy you don't trust over there one-on-one. But at some point, he's going to have to block someone one-on-one. And can he do it? That's the question, right? Same thing with these corners. There's things they can do schematically to put them in situations and put them in, to take them out of predicaments that they're not comfortable in, right? But at some point, you can't continue to hide a corner all the time. He's going to have to play man-to-man against a receiver. And can he get the job done? You should be able to ask your corner to be able to do that, a few times a game, right? So I just thought it was interesting to hear him say that, because I've been telling you guys that for the longest. To hear him say that made a ton of sense, because that's what I felt like has been happening with those corners in particular. And I don't think that's what it's going to be when the season comes around. He gave an update on some of the injured players. Sam Hartman with the shoulder. Marcus Mariota. So we found out he had a groin injury, which we didn't know prior to Thursday. And that's why they signed Trace McSorley, right? He was DQ was asked about Cliff's offense and his trust in his play calling. And he talked about Cliff doing a really good job of fitting his system to the players that he has, and how each player can fit in his system. And he trusts him, doing everything the way that he does it. I know one of the knocks on Cliif, and we heard this before, he got here, when we first caught wind of him potentially being here. One of the knocks that we talked about with him is that there's not a lot of pre-snap motions, right? That's not his thing. You might see the running back go in motion, or the running back start on the left and then go to the right. That's normally a quarterback thing as he's setting the protection. But you don't really see a receiver start on the left and race across the formation to the right. You don't see the formation start on the left and then two guys run from the left to the right and change the way that the defense looks and schematically has to adjust. You don't see a lot of that. And remember, Dyami Brown said, this is a lot like college. Remember, Cliif is a lot of his, the basis for what he does comes from the collegiate game. And Dyami, I think this is part of the reason, another part of the reason why Dyami is so comfortable is because Dyami said in college, I didn't move around. I played on one side of the field at one position, and that was it. So I didn't have to do all of this moving around, shifting, going in motion, this, that, and the third. Now, think about every catch Dyami Brown has made this preseason. Think about what side of the field it's come on. Conversely, think about Terry McLaurin in this preseason and think about every catch he's made. All of Dyami Brown's catches have come on the right side of the offensive formation, and Terry's catches have come from the left side, except for the one wide receiver screen against the Jets. All of his catches have come from that left side. That's where he's going to line up the vast majority of the time. And so it's, when you do that, it's easy for teams to take players away because they know where they are. So if you want to take your best corner and put him on Terry McLaurin and try to take him out of the game, it's easy to do that because he knows Terry's going to be lined up on the left side of the offensive formation, the right side of the defensive formation on just about every single snap. And he's not going to go in a bunch of motion. He's not going to be changing where he is. So it's easy for teams to key in and set up defenses to take guys away if they specifically want to do so. So that is a knock on Cliif's offense. But look, as long as you got Jayden Daniels back there doing the things that he did, and we're going to get to that, it's going to, I don't give a shit what you want to do defensively. It's going to be tough to stop it. Just think about Robert Griffin III in 2012. Teams knew what we were going to do. They knew we were going to run read option. They knew we were going to run the damn drift route over the middle of the field to Pierre Garçon. They still couldn't stop the shit because there's a lot to think about when you have a mobile quarterback. It's the same thing with Lamar Jackson. All right. You know some of the things that Lamar wants to do. You know how in theory, this is how you stop Lamar Jackson. Good luck doing it, though. Right. It's kind of the same thing that we have going on right now. But I digress. I like Cliif's offense. So far, so good. I love the tempo. We're going to talk about that more when we get to the game itself. These were the two biggest quotes from Thursday. I thought these were the most impactful ones that I'm probably going to spend the most time talking about. This is what garnered the most attention out of Thursday's press conference with Dan Quinn, where he said the number 2 wide receiver position is open. It's a competition. It's wide open. And he said he was really impressed by Olamide Zaccheaus, and that got everybody all worked up in a frenzy. Oh, I mean, some of the shit that I saw over the weekend just made me shake my head. And I said, I hope I don't do that, which I don't. But I saw some of the most salacious, stupid-ass, attention-grabbing, thirst-trapping content for Commanders fans imaginable. Is Dyami or is Jahan Dotson in danger of being cut? If you're posting that type of video, if that's the title, if there's a thumbnail suggesting that, then that means you're chasing after eyeballs, and that's no different than Skip Bayless saying some stupid shit just to get a reaction out of you. When I saw stuff like that, I was like, are you kidding me? You really? So we're deep enough at receiver. This is the same argument I had about Dyami Brown. Just 2 weeks ago, when people still thought Dyami was in danger of getting cut before we had a preseason game or a joint practice. I think that all went away last week after the Jets game. But before any of the joint practices or the preseason games, Dyami Brown's not making this roster. And I said, do you really think we're deep enough at receiver to cut a Dyami Brown? Do you really think we're deep enough at receiver to even entertain the thought of cutting a former first-round pick 3 years into his career in Jahan Dotson? Are you serious? You can't be. You can't be. Anyway, I do think the number 2 wide receiver position is open. I do think that Dan Quinn said something, and I'm going to save it for nope, I'm not going to save it. I'm going to talk about it right now because he said it in his post-preseason game press conference, I think it was. And so I want to make mention of it. He said, I don't really care if a guy's a 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. That's for you guys to decide. We just want to get guys the football in positions that allow them to make plays and be the best versions of themselves, essentially, is what he said. And he even went as far as to say, hey, we feel good about Jahan inside that building. That's you guys creating this narrative that somehow we're down on him. Same thing with Emmanuel Forbes. He's like, we're fine with Emmanuel Forbes. It's you guys. It's the outward public. You guys have created this perception that this guy's, trash and he can't get right. That ain't us. We believe in him. And I was glad to hear him say those things. It needs to be said. Because as a player, you need to know that they got your back, that they didn't get this from us, right? Nothing that they've said suggested that they felt any different about Jahan Dotson. They've said competition from the jump. They're not treating Jahan any differently than anybody else. Jahan's not playing into the third quarter. He played into the second quarter in the first preseason game. He came out when Terry and the rest of the group came out in this game. Like, they're not treating him any differently. They wanted to see him in different positions. They wanted to see him play the X, the Z, the slot, and he needed more time to be able to do that. So, it's not a big deal. And whether it's Zacchaeus getting reps or Diami getting reps or Jahan, as long as those guys are producing, who gives a shit at this point, right? That's where I'm at. Because when it's all said and done, if Jahan's really a number 2 wide receiver, it'll bear itself out at season's end. When we look at the numbers, when we watch the season and we go through the games, in the moment, we'll know. We're 7-8 games into the season and Jahan only has 312 yards receiving. We'll know. Maybe he's not a number 2 receiver. Maybe he wasn't worthy of a first-round pick. We'll know. We get into the season and we're 7 games in and Jahan already has 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. Yeah, he's that number 2 receiver we've been looking for all along. So we'll see. The season will tell us all we need to know, right? And then I thought this was really interesting by DQ too, right? The joint practices and the preseason games that are left will determine, and this is the part that I was really fixated on. He said the 4th and 5th corner. He's telling us where the positional battles are, right? He was just throwing these out, but he's literally telling us, these aren't like random examples that he's given us. These are specific to this team, this roster, this year, right here, right now, examples, okay? He's like, these joint practices and the preseason games that are left, so he was talking about the Dolphins game and the joint practice and the Patriots game in week 3 of the preseason that are left will determine 4th and 5th cornerback, this returner, that returner. So he still don't know who the punt returner is going to be, who's going to be the kick returner. Clearly he doesn't, because they were just throwing randoms out there last game against the Dolphins. We'll talk about that. Swing tackle, okay, that's still up for grabs, right? I really don't think it is. But are we keeping, I think it's more of a discussion of, are we keeping, well, you know what? I lied. Because Chris Paul, I don't know if you noticed, Chris Paul was at right tackle with the second group and Trenton Scott kicked inside the guard. We'll talk more about that. We're going to get into some fine details and some minutia. That's what we do here when we get into the game, right? And then third or fourth running back, I want to talk about third and fourth running back. Michael Wiley for RB3. My name is Louie Tee, and I approve of this message. All right. So I'm on the campaign trail for Michael Wiley as RB3, and he did nothing to dissuade me in week 2 of the preseason. So he's telling you these are the positions that we're looking at, and we're saying, hey, there are real battles happening right now. We have not made up our mind as to who the 5th corner is going to be. I know who the 4th corner is going to be. If we're talking about including nickels, we got the 3 boundaries, and then you got Mike Sainristil. Those are 4 guys right there. Who's the 5th corner? I've already told you it's Noah Igbenogany for me, and it's really not even up for debate. Some guys made themselves, known, and they said, hey, don't forget about me. And I'm like, yeah, you look like you're on the practice squad, though. But I like the fact that you stood up and said something. But I think we are already good here, buddy. Thanks. We'll talk more about that. And then he talked about the safety room as well as the tight end room to him is really deep. Those are 2 of the better positions on the team. And now that I feel a lot less secure about linebacker, I think tight end has taken its place. Now, I will tell you, I've been very, very disappointed in Cole Turner. We'll get to that when we get to the game, right? But I've been very disappointed with him this year. Hasn't had a lot of opportunities, and the ones he has had, he hasn't made the most of them, right? But it is still a really good room. So then the joint practice, I don't want to spend too much time on the joint practice because obviously that was a long time ago. They've played an actual preseason game, but by and large, it was a very successful day, right? A lot of people were hitting me up after the joint practice feeling really good. It was the direct opposite of what they felt like after the Jets joint practice. The sky was falling. We're going to suck. Oh, here we go again. Woe is me. That was after the Jets game or joint practice. And then I told you, you'll feel a lot better about this team come the preseason game. And then you did. This was the direct opposite. We dominated the Dolphins. Jayden was sharp, and the offense was super effective and efficient. He threw like 8 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions, and the 2 interceptions, by and large, weren't his fault. One tipped off the fingers of a receiver that should have caught it, and the other one, I think it was both of them were tipped off of the hands of receivers that should have been caught. Something to that effect. He threw a bunch of touchdowns in the red zone, like 2 to Terry and 2 to Ertz, and he spread it around. We saw some of the clips of him throwing those touchdown passes. One Dolphins beat reporter I read, as I was following a lot of the joint practices while I was in transit, said that, the Dolphins finally scored a couple of touchdowns. He said, but this was the equivalent of being down like 35-0 in a game and then getting a couple of garbage time touchdowns. Right? You're still getting crushed by 5 touchdowns in the game, but at least you scored and you're not getting shut out anymore. So we were really dominating them. In the defensive line, as we continue through, he was threw a bunch of touchdowns in the red zone and really connected with his targets and showed tremendous command of the offense, right? The defense got after the Dolphins offense and stifled them early and often as the defensive line really created havoc and disruption. Still without generating a turnover. They did all of this without actually taking the football away. But Mike Sainristil and Tyler Owens continue to be names that people kept, singing out over and over again. No missed field goals by Riley Patterson. That doesn't seem as important now after the game now, does it? He went 6 for 6 in the joint practice, including 4 of them over 50 yards, like a 51, a 53, a 54. I think it was a 51, 2 53s, and a 54. And he made all of them in practice. So he was 6 for 6. And somebody, one of the Dolphins beat reporters tweeted out that, or I think it was one of our beat reporters, was sitting in the crowd watching the practice, and one of the fans, a Dolphins fan, said, dang, we need him to be our kicker. And it was just funny because just a day before we were like, this guy's trash. We need to get him out of here. Well, it didn't take long for us to go back to that sentiment, right? So anyway, I digress. This practice was a lot like the practice the 2 days before on Tuesday. And DQ talked about that today in his press conference where he said that was the turning point in which he said Jayden's ready. That practice, remember I came on and I told you that the offense was outstanding in that practice. Remember I said it is literally night and day difference between the two joint practices and how we went into them. Remember I talked about the week prior when we were going into that Jets joint practice, the offense was uneven. The offensive line was in shambles. That was the first time we started to feel the effects of the offensive line having to shuffle with Wiley being injured. That was when Coleman first got injured. And then Cosme was out with the illness. And so they shuffled the deck. They got dominated on offense. The defense ruled the day. And we kind of limped into the joint practice with the Jets with that same, kind of mentality and attitude. Then the weather didn't help, and it was just a mess. This past week, that practice on Tuesday was almost flawless by the offense. Jayden Daniels was his sharpest of camp. I told you guys as much. I told you I don't think the ball hit the ground but one time the entire practice from Jayden Daniels. He was outstanding. And DQ was like, yo, that was the practice where I went, this kid's got it, right? He's ready. So I'm not surprised that bled into the game on Saturday night. So let's get into Saturday night's game, shall we? So I like to do this with a fine-tooth comb. If you've already done this, I apologize. You've probably already done this on 15 different channels, but such is life. So, I'm big on who's in the game at what time, who's coming in when. Like, these things matter to me because this is what I think helps determine what their thought process is. It doesn't necessarily mean this is how the roster is going to be, but it does help me to start to put the pieces of the puzzle together as to how they're thinking about things, right? So I told you one of the biggest things I like to see to start a game off. Who's back returning kicks? So we fielded the opening kickoff, and we had Byron Pringle and Davion Davis back there again. So two games in a row that those two are your two kickoff return men to start the game. I don't know if that's going to mean anything for Byron Pringle. Look, Davion Davis is not making this team. I already told you. But he has enough special teams prowess to me to be on the practice squad. But I don't think I know he's not making the team. So they put Kaz Allen back there later. We'll talk about that to give him an opportunity to see if he could make a name for himself. And I don't know. They could just both be battling for the right to be on the practice squad at this point, right? Anyway, De'Ami Brown with a nice wide receiver screen to get the offense really going after a, nothing burger run on first down. That put us in a very manageable, third down situation. And he hit De'Ami Brown again, right? And I put down in my notes, B-Rob with nice pass pro on 3rd and 2 on the first down throw to De'Ami. One of the knocks on Brian Robinson, after his first 2 seasons is that the pass pro just isn't up to par, right? You want him on the field on third downs, but you're afraid to have him out there because the pass protection just isn't good enough. Well, he talked about working on that in the offseason, and boy, it looks good thus far. So far, so good. The Dolphins blitzed a lot in this game. They came after Jayden Daniels, really heated him up a bit, put him in the microwave, and they wanted to see how he was going to do. And I thought he handled it well. Part of the reason the protection was good. Like, look, I get it. They didn't have their dogs out there. There was no Jalen Ramsey. There was none of the starters, the guys that'll be playing for the most part for them on Sundays starting in September. But that's what we're supposed to do. If you don't have any of your true starters out there, we're supposed to be able to block them and not let anybody get near our quarterback. I don't even think he got touched on any of the passing attempts. And they blitzed. And B-Rob stepped up, great pass protection, and a beautiful throw to De'Ami on the comeback for the first down. Jayden was extremely sharp early in this game. He had a dart to Terry on consecutive plays. The first one was just the same pass he threw to De'Ami the play before to get them the first down. He went to Terry on a quick out, put it on the outside, shoulder away from the defender low, so Terry could go down and get it, and the defender couldn't. And then did Terry again. This time it was a hitch, but he threw Terry open, and we just haven't seen enough of that, right? We got really excited with Sam Howell in that final game of his rookie season against Dallas because he was putting the football in positions that we just hadn't seen quarterbacks do here in Washington since Kirk Cousins. And the throw to Terry on that first possession that led to the catch and run reminded me a lot of that Jahan Dotson throw from Sam Howell against Dallas when he threw him that comeback and he threw it to the outside away from the defender on the inside, and Jahan caught it and spun and went up the sideline and almost got away, and that guy shoestring tackled him, but it was about to be a massive gain. That's what allowed Terry to get away from that defender. That defender was inside. That ball was thrown outside and away from him, led Terry up the field and away from the defender. So Terry's able to turn that corner, break that tackle, get up the field, and get more yards after the catch. So that's just a great example of ball placement and throwing your receiver open and leading him to more yards after the catch. If that ball is thrown on Terry between the 1 and the 7, that's a 5-yard gain, not a 25-yard gain, right? Also, what you saw early in the game was tempo. I loved it. I don't know if they're going to run it in the regular season. I would like to hope that they would, right? But when's the last time you've seen tempo for no reason? When's the last time you've seen an offense here in Washington go tempo without it being the end of the first half or late game situation? When's the last time you saw tempo? You got to probably go back to Jay Gruden. And even Gruden didn't do a lot of tempo, right? Hell, you might have to go back to the Shanahans. I mean, we just don't do those sort of things here in Washington. So it's fun watching Jayden Daniels make a completion and he's running up, screaming at the line of scrimmage, y'all, come on, come on, come on. And he's doing this shit right here and this right here and getting everybody lined up. That's fun. Defense doesn't get a chance to breathe. They can't make substitutions. We got our guys in that we want in. It's a beautiful thing. His first miss of the game was to Dotson. That's a pass that he can make in his sleep. He had already made it twice in the game. He just missed Dotson. But then Dyami with his third catch on the opening drive. And I think that was eye-opening for a lot of people watching the game. Like, yo, he's really going to Dyami. He really trusts him. And I think people are starting to look at Dyami in a different light. And, you know, it's just funny because those are the same people who were shitting on Dyami just 2 weeks ago. Now they're looking at Dyami as like, oh, man, Dyami Brown might be nice. No, you weren't saying that 2 weeks ago, right? Like, he's not a different player. He's just comfortable. And they're making a concerted effort to give him an opportunity. The same thing I'm saying about Jahan Dotson. He doesn't suck. He's not he didn't forget how to play football. You just have to give him opportunities to show what he's capable of doing, right? I thought the first third down that they didn't convert, the one where he throws it essentially away to Terry, I thought he should have thrown the ball to Eckler out in the flats. He talked about this after the game. He said they call those dirty throws, right? Throwaways where you just get rid of it. You're already in scoring range. You don't want to take a sack. Like, I love the fact that as a young rookie in his second preseason game, he already has the awareness to know we're already in field goal range. But like Sam Howell lacked that awareness, right? Sam would take a 16-yard sack when we're at the 34-yard line. Now we're at midfield and we can't kick a field goal. And you're like, Sam, what the F, bro? Throw that shit away, right? Do not take an 11-yard sack when we're at the 33-yard line. Now we're at the 44, and we're not kicking a 62-yard field goal. What are you doing, dude? Don't take that sack, right? Sam didn't have the ability to process that and to understand, don't do that. It's great to see a young quarterback with that mentality already. Like, that's coaching, them telling him, hey, we're in scoring range. Get the points, right? Live to fight another day. But also, in my mind, I'm like, you didn't have to do that. They ran a blitz off the right side of the offense, left side of the defense, right side of the offense. Now, the corner was staying at home, and if you throw it out there to Austin Eckler, the corner's going to be there. But I give Austin Eckler a chance on third and whatever it was, one-on-one with the corner out there, and see if he can't make him miss. If he does, it's a touchdown. They just blitzed 6 guys, 3 of which came from the right side. There's nobody over there. If that corner doesn't make that tackle, right? Give him a chance, is all I'm saying. But he had already made up his mind. If I don't get the look I'm looking for, I'm just going to throw it away. And he did. And they came with pressure, so he needed to make a quick decision, and he did. Should have been points on that possession. That's a scoring drive. In my mind, I equate that first drive as a scoring drive, which is what I said. I wanted to see our offense dominate. And I felt like it did, even though the points weren't there, right? That's a scoring drive. We should have come away with at least a field goal. Unfortunately, Riley Patterson misses from 49 yards. And, I got what I wanted because remember I had said, now I would have preferred this have happened with Jeff Driscoll or Trace McSorley in the game. I want Jayden Daniels to go down and score touchdowns. But I asked for this. Did I not? I said, hey, is it selfish of me to want the offense to stall out in a position where it's going to put pressure on whoever the field goal kicker is? We know it's going to be Riley Patterson after they released Reeves Ahmed. I said, is it selfish of me to want them to stall out in a position that's going to put our kicker on the field in a tough spot where he's going to have to make a kick? Is it selfish of me to want that? Because I do. Because I need to know now. Because I already told y'all, I told you guys a month and a half ago, when Brandon McManus was cut, I'm worried about our kicking situation. And when nobody else was talking about our kicking situation, I was bitching and complaining and moaning about it because I was not comfortable. And I said, this Reeves Ahmed guy that they just pulled out of thin air that none of us have ever heard of, he can't be our week 1 kicker. It's going to be somebody else. And when they brought in Riley Patterson, what did I tell you? I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this guy. Well, you're seeing my worst fears confirmed. He misses from 40. And this wasn't just an ordinary miss. Like, he didn't just miss it just slightly outside of the left upright. Oh, he shanked that bitch. That thing never had a shot. And that miss gave the Dolphins tremendous field position, and they just went right down the field and scored a touchdown. Now, I want to start by talking about the 2 defensive tackles that started this game. Remember, no Allen, no Payne for the 2nd consecutive game. Also, no Johnny Newton for the 2nd consecutive game. All of this was to be expected, by the way. 14 Commanders did not dress for this game. 14, including Cleveland Farrell. I wonder if there's anything wrong with Dante Fowler Jr. or if he's just getting that same veteran treatment that Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen are getting. Because Dante Fowler Jr. has not played in a single preseason game. Now, he is longer in the tooth. He might be one of the most veteran guys on the defense after Bobby Wagner because he's been in the league a while. But I just want to make sure there's nothing wrong with him. I don't think there is. But Cleveland Farrell didn't play in this game. No Dante Fowler Jr., no Daron Payne, no Jonathan Allen. Obviously, the quarterbacks didn't play. So, quite a few guys were out in this game. But Norrell Pollard and Mathis were the first 2 defensive tackles in the game. And Dan Quinn stays true to what he said. Guys that didn't play as much in the joint practice, going to play a lot more in the game. And I would imagine Norrell Pollard, the undrafted defensive tackle out of Virginia Tech, was one of the guys that probably didn't play a lot in the joint practice. And he got him out there early, as in you're starting the game, buddy, early with the starters. I don't want to read too much into that. But him getting in before John Ridgeway, Mathis is on this roster. And Mathis, I'm going to tell you right now, Mathis is playing football. Mathis is playing some ball. I like what I'm seeing from, he's disruptive. The run defense was in this game. And that was without Payne, Allen, Wagner, Farrell. None of those guys played, and the run defense was. We had one big run that they gave up that shouldn't have gone as far as it did. We're going to talk about some shoddy tackling from one individual, and I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous. All right. Somebody told me he's not making a team, and I wagged my finger, and I told that person off, and I chastised them and said, "You're crazy." I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous. Anyway, the run defense was outstanding, and it was outstanding because of guys like Mathis early, Pollard, Dorrance Armstrong. You know who played well? And I put it in my notes right here. Matter of fact, that's the next one. Run defense looks good. I put in my notes. Mykal Walker active early. He bounced back really well in this game. I was very disappointed. And I was one of those people that told you, hey, this when we signed him, this ain't a throwaway, because we signed a lot of guys that I was like, Pierre and some of those dudes. I was like, yo, these dudes ain't making a roster. A lot of these dudes ain't making a roster. Mykal Walker is making this roster, right? I was adamant when we signed him. I wasn't impressed in week 1 of the preseason. I was like, bro, if this is the best you got, you can't be here. And he's like, nah, it was a little bit of rust, man. Let me knock a little bit of this rust off. I'm good. He showed me something in preseason game number 2. He was in there. His hat was in there. Like, the Dolphins had to work for, like, it was 3rd and 1. Nothing. Stop for no gain. It's 4th and 1. Like, the reason that these plays were going for no gains and, a loss of 1 or, a gain of 1 barely is because Mykal Walker and Mikey Sainristil and a lot of these guys, Mathis, they were mixing it up in there, getting aggressive. It was fun to watch. Louvu was getting aggressive, right? We forced 2, not 1, 2 4th and 1s. 2 4th and 1s. Unfortunately, the second one, Tua throws a dime to River Craycraft. It beats Benjamin St. Juice. Tua goes 5 of 5 on the possession and made it look relatively easy. And the last of that 5 was a 14-yard dime to River Craycraft. You could be upset at Juice all you want. You can say it's River Craycraft. He shouldn't be getting beat. River Craycraft is a professional receiver. He's been in the league for 6 years. He's a professional wide receiver. You call it, you can say whatever you want, right? Like, we know what Juice is as a corner. Like, let's not create this fallacy in our minds that Benjamin St. Juice is this elite man-to-man defender. He's never been that. His best work is done down around the line of scrimmage on short routes, in breaking routes at that, right? Slants and stops and comeback. Like, that's the shit that Juice is all over, and he gets up and he does this shit. You go vertical on Juice, you can run by him. Even River Craycraft can run by him. So none of you should have been surprised. I wasn't. And I think that's what they're trying to figure out is who can we put in man-to-man? And I'm like, how about you try Michael Davis in man-to-man? I'd like to see that. He can get run by just like everybody else, but that's what he does best. That is not what Benjamin St. Juice does best. And clearly that is not what Emmanuel Forbes does best. But Michael Davis does man-to-man best. So we'll see what happens. Kaz Allen and Byron Pringle were back on the second kickoff after the Dolphins scored that touchdown. Allen received the kickoff and he almost broke it. He had a chance. He stayed on his feet. B-Rob with an 11-yard run, and I put in my notes, he looks good. He looks really good. He looks poised for a massive season. Does B-Rob. I mean, some of these runs, I'm like, yo, Brian, bro, you were this close from going. And one time he had an 11-yard run, and he got up and he slapped the football hard like this because he knew if he'd kept his feet, it was one defender to beat. He was off to the races. He looks good, man. B-Rob looks like I'm talking, I don't know what he averaged in the first game. I'd like to think that the numbers were good in that game too. I think he had 3 carries for 22 yards in this game. Like 2 11-yard runs. He had one run that the first run of the game went nowhere. And then the next 2 runs were 11-yard runs. And one of them came after a Wiley penalty, and he got us right back into a manageable down and distance, like just like that. Speaking of which, Andrew Wiley false start, and then another nice 11-yard run by B-Rob. He just looks ready, man. And that's going to take so much pressure off of Jayden Daniels. If he can run the ball like that, and then Eckler had a good run on a 3rd and 1, and then obviously we'll get to that while he had the holding. But Eck looks good too, man. Like these backs look so good right now. That 1-2 punch of Eck and B-Rob with Jayden as a threat as well. Man, I'm so excited about that backfield. I really, truly am. JD5 on read option keep for 13 yards. That's a thing of beauty because that's going to be there for much of the season, especially early on. Because while teams know he's a runner, you're still keying in on the running back. It's not natural. This is not college. You don't run into quarterbacks on a weekly basis that keep the ball on read option and pull it and take off with it. That's not a normal thing in the NFL. There are only a handful of quarterbacks in the league doing that. So you don't face that very often. So teams don't, defensive ends aren't disciplined enough to stay down at home on that. They're crashing down, going and getting the running back. Now, again, you get 5-6 games in and he's tearing teams apart with this, then you're going to get teams that are going to be more aware. They're going to stay at home, but that's going to open up lanes for B-Rob and Eck. Like, that's why I said people can really get after Cliif Kingsbury and he doesn't do this and they're not pre-snap shifts and motions. And yes, I'm aware of all that stuff. And those things do help. And it helps you identify coverage and you see what matchups you have and you force the defense to have to think and you're bumping, the defense down. So now they have to change assignments and you can cause confusion doing all of those things. You know what also causes confusion? A mobile quarterback that you have to defend as both a passer and a runner. That causes a lot of confusion too. So now on that play, it was obvious that DQ was not happy. I was weak watching that because DQ is on the sidelines. Get out. You get out, right? And Jada's like, bro, it won't nowhere for me to fall. Like, you can tell, like, and even after the game, he laughed about it. Like, DQ was like, was I animated? Could you guys tell on the TV copy? Like, yeah, no, we could tell, bro. You was definitely telling him to get out. And JD was like, bro, that's gonna be a constant struggle back and forth because I'm a playmaker. I want to make plays. And it really wasn't nowhere for him to go. Right? You don't want to fall in the back of the leg of the guy blocking for you. You can hurt him, right? Could he have slid? Sure. Could he have gotten towards out of bounds? Yeah, he could have done those things, right? But it just was funny. And it was a harmless tackle. There was nothing, malicious or physical about the tackle in nature. And even Chick on the man, they are awful. Chick Hernandez and B. Mitch are just awful. I didn't want to do it, but they were so bad, right? Anyway, Chick was like, I don't like that. I'm like, you don't like what, Chick? The fact that at the end of a 13-yard run, there's a harmless tackle that is executed. Like, I know you want him to get down and slide, and there are going to be times where we're going to be probably fussing at him too for not sliding. That wasn't one of them though. Like, anyway, I digress. I don't know. I don't know what people are expecting from him, right? If he would have got blasted, then yes, we could have been like, bro, you got to get down. That was as harmless a tackle as you're going to see in the NFL. Then, and this is what I'm talking about, these are the elements of the offense that are just going to be so fun because how many teams in the league are running RPOs? How many teams is that even effective with RPOs? One, you got to have a quarterback with a quick release to run RPO. Two, RPOs work best to me when you have a quarterback who is a threat as a runner. Now, Nicholas Foles was one of the best RPO quarterbacks we've seen in the last decade, and he's not a threat to run. But if you have an offense set up for it, you can be dynamic in that regard. And John Bates, wide open over the middle of the field on RPO on a quick pop pass from Jayden Daniels is a thing of beauty, because imagine when that's Ertz or Ben Sinnott doing that. And that was a great catch because it was a low ball, low throw by Daniels, because a lot of times on those read option or those RPOs, when you're throwing a pop pass, you don't even get to sometimes grab the laces, right? You're faking and then you're pulling it out quickly and you're throwing it. It's almost the equivalent of getting a shotgun snap and throwing a wide receiver screen. You don't even have time to grab the laces sometimes. You get the snap and you're trying to get it out there as quick as possible to the receiver so he can get it in his hands and do what he needs to do. And to see John Bates have to go down and catch it and make that catch, I was proud of John Bates, right? And it was a decent throw from JD considering the circumstances. That's 16 yards to Bates, your third tight end in terms of pass catching ability. So another nice drive is formulating, but then you get a hold on Wiley on 3rd and 1. And Andrew Wiley had a rough go of it in this game. Had the false start, had the holding penalty. I'm not going to kill Wiley. He is what he is. I think you're going to see him be better this year because I think they're going to play to his strength. He is better as a run blocker. He's better going downhill, going forward. You couple him with Cosme, and you're going to blow some guys out of there and create some massive rushing lanes on that right side. So it was a rough go of it for Wiley, but it is what it is. It pushes out the down to 3rd and 11 from 3rd and 1. Eckler had a nice run off that same right side that I just mentioned. Had a nice run, and of course it was negated by the holding penalty. And then on the first play of the second quarter, Bates catches a 5-yard pass from Jayden, and they have to settle for a field goal. I thought that was a great decision by Jayden Daniels. On 3rd and 11, the defense drops back, plays soft coverage in front of him. There's nothing there. Instead of trying to play He-Man, instead of trying to force it, they're in zone. So you using your legs, everybody's watching you. You're not going to run for 11 yards. Instead of you, forcing it in somewhere, which I remember Sam doing last year against the Bills, right? He almost threw an interception a week prior against Buffalo or against the Denver Broncos when they dropped back in a zone on 3rd and 18, and he tried to fit it in there, and it almost got picked off against Denver. Then the next week, he did the exact same thing, and it did get picked off by Terrell Bernard of the Buffalo Bills. Jayden just took the check down. Take what they're giving you. Kick the field goal. You're in field goal range. Love to fight another day. Sam didn't understand that last year. Right? Took points off the board against Buffalo early in that game. So I thought that was a good decision. That's a pro decision. Again, 2 drives in a row, you get in the scoring range, and you're asking your young quarterback, your rookie in his second start in the preseason, I may add, to do the right thing, and he made the right decision, theoretically speaking. The first time I thought he could have thrown it to Austin Eckler in the flats, but theoretically speaking, he didn't put you in a bad spot, and he gave you a chance to get points. You got to love that. So it's 7-3 as Patterson knocks it home from 46 yards out. Tyler Owens on the ensuing possession blows up a blocker on a kickoff to make a tackle. That was a thing of beauty. And he just continues to get his name called, does Tyler Owens. Great coverage by Quan Martin on the deep ball. I love to see that. Quan is back there. I want to say that he was playing deep half. Guy runs into his half of the field. He runs with him, and he's right there stride for stride, step for step with him. Dives, incomplete. Love to see it. Good tackle by Michael Davis on the Devin Achane run. It was a 7-yard run. They did like a little reverse action, toss to Achane, and he comes screaming across the formation. He gets on the edge, and I'm like, oh shit, this is we talking about 4.28 speed here, right? If this shit gets anywhere near the sideline, God bless him, good night. He gone, right? And Michael Davis is the only dude over there. If he don't make this tackle, Achane is gone. And he breaks down, grabs his ass, holds on for dear life, and gets him on the ground. I said, good ass tackle, Michael. And it brought up 3rd and 3. And then I just want to make note of this. So the second team defense is now in the game, right? And Michael Davis, as you would expect, is, one of the corners in. Chigozie Anuzium is the other corner. I thought Chigozie Anuzium played his ass off. Okay. I'm just going to say this. I think it is going to result in him being on the practice squad. I think it's too late for him to push for a roster spot unless they decide to keep a 6th corner, because I think the 5 cornerback spots are already locked up in my mind's eye. And there's nothing that has been done to deter me from feeling like the 5 guys on this roster. And we know 4 of them for sure. And I think Noah Igbenogany is as safe as you can get to a lock that's not a lock on the roster right now. So I don't think you're going to see Chigozie Anuzium end up on this roster, but I like him more than I thought I was going to like him, because I didn't like his tape at all, to be honest with you. But I like him. I like the fact that he got some reps. There's a throw. I'm going to save that. We'll talk about it when we get there. Quan Martin, great in coverage again on 3rd down. On that 3rd and 3, if Quan was looking for the ball, he could have picked that off and might have scored a touchdown, because that running back really didn't want the smoke. That quarterback was trying to get him decapitated. That was a hospital ball. And Quan was looking to put him in the hospital instead of looking for the football. And that's the difference between playmakers and dudes who just looking to be, hitters. Like, if we really want to be a ball is life, creating turnovers type team, you got to be looking for the football. The guys that bother me are the ones that Brian Arakpo used to piss me off. And I used to always say this, because Arakpo would rather go and put a hellacious shot on the quarterback. Now he holds on to it, but I just lit the quarterback up. He'd rather get up and scream and do the little shit like this, the little Wolverine shit like this, and light the quarterback up for a 9-yard loss on a sack where he didn't see him coming, instead of stripping the ball out of his hand. I'd rather you barely touch him and knock the damn ball out of his hands and give us a chance to recover it than you to light him up for a 9-yard loss, and then they get up on 3rd and 17 and complete an 18-yard pass and get a 1st down, or throw a screen pass and get 19 yards and the drive's still alive. I just, that bothers me, right? I want the ball. And if Quan was looking for the rock, and I get it, it's a bang play. It's thrown out in the flats. You expect, that was a bad ball, first of all. If that's a good ball, then he should be making a tackle, not having a chance to make a play on the ball. But it was a bad ball, and it was thrown right to Quan. And if he was looking for it, it's a pick. And if we want to start taking it away, we got to start looking for the football, right? So, but it was good. It was incomplete. Quan was in great position. They had to punt. Kaz Allen comes in on punt return, almost breaks the tackle and makes something happen, but he doesn't. That's the story of Kaz Allen as a return man. Almost doesn't count. Almost doesn't count. He almost breaks it every time, feels like. But he never does. At this point, Jayden Daniels' night is over. JD5, 10 of 12 for 78 yards, 2 carries for 13 yards, 2 scoring drive opportunities, 1 missed, 1 converted, 3 points is the end result of his night. He was spectacular. I mean, I've never been more excited about 10 of 12 for 78 yards in my life. It looked good. It looked on time. It looked efficient. He looked in command. Everything that we've been told about Jayden Daniels, we saw it in this preseason game. We saw the ability to run and be a dynamic playmaker. We saw the ability to throw the football accurately and on time. We saw the zip on the football. How about that wide receiver screen to De'Ami Brown, the first completion of the game? How about that? Right? You get the football, you scramble back, and then you just throw a rope that leads him up. How many times have we seen that screen pass thrown where the guy has to go down, the guy has to go up, the guy has to go behind him, and it throws up the timing of the play, right? Nobody threw the screen pass in Washington better than Mark Brunell. How many times did we see him hit Santana Moss coming inside on that screen? I remember one like it was yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs. Santana Moss catches that bitch going up the field, and Brunell hits him in stride as he's coming up the field, and Santana Moss works his way up and takes off and scores a touchdown. The best screens are the ones that lead you up the field as you catch it. That was, and that's a simple thing, but it's so often it's not executed that way, right? The throw to Terry, leading him away from the defender outside, right? The De'Ami Brown throws away from the defender so De'Ami can get it. Like that first throw to De'Ami, that's pass interference, by the way. The guy's grabbing De'Ami, and that ball threw him open. Gave him a chance to make the catch. De'Ami's playing tough, too. He's playing through contact. The Jets one was, you could argue, pass interference. That Dolphins catch, you could argue, was pass interference. I just love the accuracy from him. I have never been more excited about 10 of 12 for 78 yards in my life. Okay. Anyway, the first play, Jeff Driscoll gets in. 43-yard run. You already know how I feel about Jeff Driscoll, man. I said, okay, Jeff is, you know what? This is the perfect time. We just talked about Jayden Daniels. I can't think of a better time to do this. Let's go ahead and go inside the odds. Brought to you by BetUs.
Inside the odds.
So we are inside the odds, brought to you by BetUs. You're looking for a new book this football season, BetUs is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry, 125% sign-up bonus for up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. Fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. If you are looking for a new book this football season, check out my BetUs link down in the description below. So these were the odds for the game. The Dolphins were -5 in terms of the spread. They covered, obviously winning the game by 7, 13-6. The total was 38. Obviously, we scored 19 points combined. So preseason totals are always interesting because you just don't know how it's going to go. I've seen games like the Colts and Broncos game. It was 38-34, I think. And then our game is 13-6, which is how most preseason games go. Anyway, but here's really what I want to get into. Jayden Daniels. You've seen him in 2 preseason games. I think you've seen the last of Jayden Daniels in the preseason, by the way. Over/under on touchdown passes for the season for Jayden Daniels. These statistics are brought to you by BetUs. 17.5 is the number for Jayden Daniels right now, right? 17.5. So is he going to have 18 or more passing touchdowns this season is what you're betting on, essentially. If the answer is no, 17 or less, then you bet the under. Money line is 115. I feel pretty confident he's going to throw for more than 17 touchdown passes. But you know how it goes in the NFL, man. Like, you saw how easily a drive can be derailed by one penalty, right? All it takes is a Andrew Wiley holding penalty or Andrew Wiley false start or a Nick Allegretti false start. We had one of those against the Jets. We were able to overcome it, right? But all it takes is one of those to destroy a drive. Doesn't take much. And all of a sudden, my man, and again, keep this in mind when you think about these numbers. It's easy to just think, oh, we got Terry, we got Jahan, we got Diami. You see how I'm naming Diami into the mix now. You see how that happened, how fast that happened. We weren't naming him when we were naming guys, just 2 weeks ago, right? We got Ertz and Sennett and all of these guys, B-Rob and Eckler. But don't forget Jayden's legs, B-Rob's legs, Eckler's legs in the red zone, right? Those are going to affect his passing numbers as well. 17.5. What says you? Over or under on Jayden Daniels and his touchdown passes this year? I'm going to take the over. I'm biased. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm going to take the over on 17.5. I think he ends up with like 19, 20, 21, somewhere in that neighborhood touchdown. Like I'm not going crazy. He's going to have 27 touchdowns. I'm not going to do that. All right. But I do see him getting close to 20, which this number suggested he would get close to 20 if you take the over. I think he's going to be in that 19, 20, 21 range. So from 19 to 21, somewhere in there. Conversely, interceptions. Now, this number I find interesting. I don't want to call it disrespectful because he's a rookie and he's going to make mistakes. And there could be a game this season that he has three or four interceptions thrown. 4 is a little bit much, but I could see a game where he has 3 interceptions thrown. Just one of those games where shit just doesn't go right. Ball batted in the air, it's intercepted. Throw through the hands of a receiver, should have been caught, intercepted. I can see one of those games happening, and that inflates his total on the year. But he just strikes me as a guy that is extremely smart. He's cerebral. He takes care. Like, he's always been a guy that has taken care of the football, even in his collegiate days. He's never been a high turnover guy. I don't see that all of a sudden starting in the NFL. And after watching him in these first 2 preseason games and how careful he's been with the football, the ball has not even been in harm's way once. Not one time. And we get, whew, he's lucky that one didn't get picked off. Not one time. Let's see. He was 2 of 3 in his first preseason game, and he was 10 of 12. So in 15 attempts, he's 12 of 15 in the preseason. He had 78 this game. He had 45 in that game. So that's 70 and 40. It's 110. 8 and 3. So 121 yards. He's 12 of 15 for 121 yards in a rushing touchdown. Not one of those 15 pass attempts was in danger of getting picked off. I just think he's a super careful guy with the football. Hence, I'm taking the under. And this has the over on the touchdowns is a little bit of me being biased because I can see him having a 16-5 season in terms of touchdowns and interceptions. But again, I just see us scoring more points than that. And he could have 16 touchdown passes, but then have, 11 rushing touchdowns on the season. Sort of like Jalen Hurts, right? Where the touchdown passes aren't plentiful because he's rushing for so many touchdowns. I can see that happening with Jayden Daniels as well. But the interceptions, I just don't see him making those mistakes. I don't even see him having double-digit interceptions, to be honest with you. Like, I could easily see 23-7, 22-8 as his touchdown interception ratio for the season, or numbers. And whatever it is, his touchdown interception ratio, I think is going to be closer to 3-1, whatever it is. I just told you 23-7, that's close to 3-1. I could see it being 22-8, that's close to 3-1. It's going to be somewhere in that neighborhood of 3-1 touchdown to interception when it's all said and done. You can't do that if you're throwing 11 interceptions. because that would mean you would have to be 30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions to be even close to a 3-1. I don't see it. So thank you to BetUs for these statistics on Jayden Daniels and what the projections are for his totals this season. Should be interesting. Should be interesting. So let's get back to the breakdown. Driscoll with the 43-yard run. I was excited about Jeff Driscoll's run. He's an athlete. I told you guys this. I'm a big Jeff Driscoll fan. You guys know that. I've talked about him already. He's not making his team. I don't think they're keeping 3 quarterbacks. It sucks because if you cut Jeff Driscoll, I think there's a good chance he ends up on somebody else's route. He's played well enough that he can be a quality backup quarterback for a team that thinks they can win something meaningful this season. I almost feel guilty wasting him here in Washington, knowing good and well that he's not going to make our roster. He should have been in somebody else's offense, but that's their fault for not signing him, right? He's a competent backup. He's a really competent backup. I honestly believe more so than Marcus Mariota. Is that wrong to feel that way? Because they're not cutting Mariota. Did you hear what Dan Quinn said about Mariota today? Yeah, right. I wanted to make mention of this. Second team offensive line came into the game, right? So Jayden's out now. They've taken out all the starters. This is the first possession with Jayden out of the game. This is the third offensive possession. Jayden played the first 2 offensive possessions of the game. So it's important to see who's on the field because they cut Mason Brooks. So now I have an extra roster spot available because I still contend that they're keeping 10 offensive linemen. Is it Ricky Stromberg or is it Julian Good-Jones? And I'm going to tell you, every time the second team offense comes onto the field, it's not Ricky Stromberg that's out there. It's Julian Good-Jones. Doesn't mean that he won't get Julian Good cut. I'm just telling you, I think they like him. So the second team offensive line from left to right went Cornelius Lucas, Julian Good-Jones, Michael Dieter at center, Trent Scott, which was a surprise, at right guard, and Chris Paul at right tackle. So now they're playing around with the tackle guard situation. I told you why that line from Dan Quinn on Thursday was important when he said swing tackle. There's a battle going on. Not for the first swing tackle, because in my mind, and this is a conversation I want to have with you tomorrow, so I'm going to leave that alone. Trent Scott was always supposed to be the next guy in line, swing tackle, after Cornelius Lucas. They kicked that man inside the guard with the second team because I think they're starting to like Chris Paul at tackle. If Chris Paul is at tackle, there's a chance that Trent Scott doesn't even make this team. Now, I think Trent Scott not making his roster is directly tied to Brandon Coleman's health. You can't cut Trent Scott if Brandon Coleman is not fully healthy and you're ready to rock and roll with him, even if he's not starting, right? If Brandon Coleman's healthy and you like Chris Paul as your other tackle, now, Chris Paul can't play left tackle. Trent Scott can. That's the thing. So when you think of swing tackle, you got to be able to play both left and right. Chris Paul is a right tackle only. That's what he played at Tulsa. That's all they've put him at in these preseason games. They have never put him on the left side because he's not a left tackle. So I have a hard time buying into Chris Paul beating out Trent Scott as a tackle. They like the versatility, obviously, but we'll come back to that a little bit later on because there's another offensive line combination later on in the game. So we'll talk about it then. Jeremy Nichols was the first running back in after B-Rob and Eck left the field. So that means they're still giving him a shot. I thought DQ said something interesting last week. He said, man, we love Michael Wiley at the running back position, we love Jeremy McNichols on special teams. I'm like, hey, you're going to have to do something on special teams to wipe that out of their memory bank, because they're already telling us, we like you better as a runner, but we value McNichols on special teams. That might prompt them to keep a fourth running back. It might prompt them to keep 3, and they might lean towards the guy that gives them more on special teams. So we'll see. McNichols gives me absolutely nothing as a running back. Jeremy McNichols is a waste at running back, if you ask me. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a massive Michael Wiley fan. I don't like the way he runs the football. If the only thing you're telling me you're keeping him for on offense is because he can catch, Michael Wiley can catch the football just as good, if not better, than Jeremy McNichols. So if you're keeping McNichols, you're keeping him because you love him on special teams at this point. And I don't love that, because if something happens to one of our running backs, you're telling me McNichols has to go in and I'm supposed to be comfortable with that? Hell no. I'm not comfortable with that shit. Another miss by Riley Patterson, this time from 43 yards. At this point, I think every Commanders fan in America was screaming the famous Coach Boyu line. Cut his ass. Cut his ass. At that point, I knew something went wrong, because I was out having drinks Saturday night, and my phone blew up. And I had no idea why. And then I looked at one Twitter comment to me, and it was about Riley Patterson. And I saw the next one up, and it was about the kicking situation. I said, okay, he must have missed a kick. I didn't realize he had missed 2 at this point. I thought he just had missed 1. So, yeah. Riley Patterson, and, I'm still not sure. Like, I'm going to be honest, I'm still not sure DQ's going to quit on this kid. DQ, was giving him the pep talk on the sidelines. He did come back and make his last kick. And they cut Reeves Ahmed for a reason, to give this dude a chance. He missed the kick last week. Reeves didn't miss anything, and they still cut Reeves. I don't know if they're going to quit on Riley Patterson. And it may not be the worst thing in the world. We're all down on him. We want him gone. And I've seen it happen a million times where a kicker struggles, he figures it out, and he becomes a really good kicker. I've seen it happen a bunch here in Washington. I don't think it's going to happen with Riley Patterson, but I can't say it won't. But I already told you how I feel about Riley Patterson. I'm not going to pile on him, because you already know. It's like kicking a horse while he's already, dead, right? Like beating a horse when he's already dead. I don't need to continue to belabor the point that I'm not a Riley Patterson fan and I don't trust him. The question is, who are you going to get? Because clearly they don't want a young kicker without experience. They want a veteran NFL kicker who is kicked in this league that they feel like they can trust. I would prefer for them to go with a young kicker with a big leg. We're a young team, and I get it. There are growing pains that come with young players. You may stumble into the next Brandon Aubrey. Everybody kept sending me the clip of him hitting a 66-yard field goal in the preseason game versus the Raiders. I don't give a shit about Brandon Aubrey making a 66-yard kick for the Cowboys. He doesn't play for our team. Don't send me that. I don't care. Okay? We have a terrible kicking situation. You think that's going to make me feel better looking at our biggest rival's kicker drilling it from 66? Don't send me that shit. I don't want to see it. Find me a damn kicker that can kick a damn 46-yard field goal without missing. You want to send me something? Send me that. Damn it, we got kicking issues. Sorry. Let's talk about Jamon Davis, man. I'm so proud of Jamon, man. Jamon with a batted ball off the edge, getting after the quarterback, has the ability to see the quarterback trying to get rid of it, jumps in the air, bats it down. Hey, how about that? Good for Jamon, right? Percy Butler with a great play on a throw to the end zone on a third down to force a field goal. At first, I was like, Percy. First of all, he was Percival. Before I saw, and I had a feeling he got a piece of the football because it would that pass was 2 on the money had he not touched it to not be caught. You rarely see flat out drops like that in the end zone. So I was like, he had to get a piece. Just even if it's a slight, that's all it takes to change the trajectory of the football and make it incomplete. And when he got up, like if he had not touched it and he had the audacity to get up and do that shit, oh, I would have flambéed his ass. He from New Orleans, put his ass in the pot. We gonna cook his ass up, baby. Put his ass in the pot. We gonna cook his ass up, baby. But he did get a piece. So I had to back off of Percy. And I had to take back to Percival. And I had to insert Percy. That was a good play. Because I was about to get on. I said, there you go, taking one of these wild-ass angles to get to the football. And if if you're going to take one of those, you're going to take one of them angles. Whoa, there. You're going to take one of them angles. You better get there. He got there, though. Percy's on this roster. Percy's comfortably on this roster. I feel like Defoe's on this roster, too. He made some good tackles back there on the back end. Some really good tackles on the back end. Did Percival. But it was good to see Defoe back in action. And by the third quarter, he didn't have any pads on. Which you expect that, but after missing some time and questioning whether he make the roster or not. And I've seen dudes not have on pads come second half and get cut. It's not impossible for that to happen. Callis Allen almost breaks a big kickoff return. I talked about that already. He broke through that first wave, almost got through the second wave, got tripped up. And that's his biggest issue is you just get a slight piece of Callis Allen and he's going down. He's so tiny, right? Next possession offensively, Luke McCaffrey on the first play climbs the ladder. He goes up, climbs the ladder for a gain of 21, plucks that bad boy. That's his route. Anything in breaking that's high in the air, that's what Luke McCaffrey does best, is he goes and gets it. Boxed out the corner, great body positioning, went up and got the football. I told you I wanted to see, I gave you my keys to the game. And one of the keys was I wanted to see the youngins have an impact. I wanted to see the youngins do something, announce themselves. And Jayden did it. Luke had some plays. Ben wasn't as impactful as he was in week 1, but he had a nice little catch and run where he drugged 3 defenders yet again, right? You saw a lot of those undrafted guys. How about Colson Yankoff with a nice little catch in the game? Hey, Colson Yankoff sighted, right? I thought that Tyler Owens flashed, Chigozie Onuzium flashed. Like the young boys came to play. Hey, how about Javonte John Baptiste saying, hey, don't forget about me. You keep telling me I'm not making this roster. Don't forget about me. I haven't changed my mind. You're still not making the damn roster, but hey, how about that? So good to see Luke, who is going to make this roster, climb the ladder for a 21-yard game. New offensive line in the game now, right? So they done shuffled the deck again. This is the third offensive line we've seen in the game to this point. Trenton Scott is now at left tackle. Julian Good-Jones remains at left guard. Michael Dieter remains at center. Ricky Stromberg is now in at right guard. Trenton Scott, who moved from right guard to left tackle, is now in who is now at left tackle, opens up a spot for Ricky Stromberg to insert himself into the right guard position. And then Chris Paul still at right tackle. So it's really interesting to see the combinations that we're seeing out here. It feels like the starting five right now, which includes Lucas. But if you take Lucas out and you insert, because Coleman's making the team, insert Coleman, Lucas would then be with this second unit at left tackle. The question is Scott then going to right guard, and is that your 10 guys? Because right now it feels like Ricky Stromberg is on the outside looking in. That's what it feels like to me. Ricky Stromberg feels like the 11th offensive lineman, and they're keeping 10. But he could be 10, and Good Jones could be out. He gave up a sack in this game. We're going to talk about it. And Stromberg can play center too. I don't know if Good Jones can or not. So, look, I feel like 9 of the 10 offensive linemen feel spoken for. I really haven't changed my stance on the offensive line. They just got rid of Mason Brooks. He was my 10th offensive lineman. So now Good Jones could be inserted there, or Stromberg. That's what it feels like. Stromberg feels like 11 right now, because when they go to that second unit, it's Good Jones in first. But that doesn't mean they don't like Stromberg and his flexibility, right? Jeff Driscoll with a gain of 6 on 3rd and 5 for a first down. I love the fact that Jeff is not afraid to run. If shit breaks down and he's got to go, Jeff goes. And he doesn't hesitate and he doesn't think twice about it. Tress Way with a really good punt inside the 10-yard line. It was fair caught at the 9. You love to see it, right? Tress getting into midseason form. Chigozie Anuzium with nice coverage on a deep ball from the slot to force a 4th down. Let's talk about Chigozie Anuzium's day. I thought he was exceptional in this game. And he announced himself to us because he had been relatively quiet to the point where I'd start asking people that were out at practice, have you heard anything about Chigozie Anuzium? Like anything? Nothing? No? Okay. Because the talent is definitely there. I didn't love his tape, but you can't ignore the measurables and the speed and the things that he posted at his pro day. You can't ignore those things. I love the fact that this play came from the slot. And I don't know if they knew he could do this or not. Like, had they tried him in the slot? But what happened was he started out as the outermost corner on this play. Because, the Dolphins, they love to do this. They start with tight formations, right? And then they send a guy in motion to spread you out. And this is how they help to declare what coverage is what. So if Anuzium had bumped out, it's zone. Because he stayed locked up with the guy that was the innermost receiver, now he's in the slot. Because that receiver comes out in motion, goes all the way to the outside, and Anuzium was going to bump out. And Dominique Hampton, the safety, said, no, you stay inside. I'm out here, right? So he's inside against a slot fade up the sideline, and he's right there in the hip pocket of that receiver, dives, forces incompletion, gets up, does the incomplete sign. Jalen Ramsey comes over, is talking shit, and he's like, shut up. Told him to shut up, sit down, and shut up. I'm in the game, and you not. And I just made a play, and I loved it. He was physical. He made tackles. He was around the football. This felt like one of those performances that says, hey, you better have a practice squad roster spot with my name on it. Before, I didn't know if that was the case. There were a lot of guys that felt like they were a little bit higher on the totem pole than him. I think he announced himself. And if he could play slot too, and I'm not saying that that's something he can do, but on that play, it looked damn good. I seen A.J. Woods, who is a nickel, who had a sack in this game, got cooked from the slot. Cooked is not the right word. It was a perfectly thrown football, but he was beat. He was beat from the slot, on the slot fade, on the opposite side. So if Chigozie Anuzium can do that, I don't know. We'll see. Kaz Allen takes a big shot on a punt return. I don't know what took them so long to throw the flag. He got hit in the face with a helmet. Like, if this was college football, that was targeting and that dude was ejected. Like, what are we talking about here? I'm just glad he didn't fumble the ball. Michael Wiley comes in and immediately gains 10 yards on a run, right? His first play in the game. His first play, they give him the football, and it's 10 yards right off the bat. Smooth up the hole. Pause. Nice little cutback. Make a defender miss. Gains 10 yards. And on the next play, he hits tackle for a loss of 4 yards. Just like that. But there's just a stark difference between him and Jeremy McNichols. Like, everything looks so hard and so disjointed with McNichols. And then Wiley comes in and it's just smooth and it's elegant and he's gliding. And I don't know. There has to be a sizable gap between the two of them on special teams to make it make sense for me. Because if the final roster comes out and Michael Wiley doesn't make this roster and Jeremy McNichols does, I'm not going to be happy. Because you can find other guys to play special teams. And Wiley, I see him running down on teams. It's not like he's not out there. He might not be as effective at getting to the football as McNichols, but there should be enough guys on the roster where you shouldn't have to trade a guy that can actually help you in a game setting at running back for a guy that can only really help you on special teams. Because if we have anything happen at running back and McNichols has to take the bulk of the lion's share of the touches, we're screwed at running back. Whereas if Wiley has to, we still got a fighting chance. And I sincerely mean that. Hey, JC Ice side. JC Ice, yeah. Nothing's better than ice. JC Ice. A JC Ice sighting. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. Back-to-back plays, JC Ice gets involved. And it's those little glimpses, right? Those little flashes of JC Ice reminding me of why he should be here. And I go, for just a split second, I go, this is why you should be here. He catches a ball in the flats, and he does something that Byron Pringle won't do. He does something that I know Bryson Tremaine isn't going to do, that they've given every opportunity for Mitchell Tinsley to do when he can't do, and that's make somebody miss. Catch the ball and turn into a punt returner. Make somebody miss. He turned up the field, cut inside, and took a 2-yard pass and made it an 8-9-yard gain. And I said, you have value, man. Is there enough of it to put a roster spot with your name on it? That's the question that I struggle with. Because you know what Dan Quinn told me? He said, the reason you don't see Crowder back there on punt returns is because I already know what I got in Crowder as a punt return. I don't need to put him back there. I said, interesting. If you already know, are you telling me that, yeah, he's solid. He's not a world beater, but I know what I'm getting. Or are you telling me, no. I want to see what other guys can do because I already know Jamison Crowder is a legit punt returner. I'm going to give these other guys a chance so I can see what happens in the event that Jamison Crowder can't go or something along those lines. But he's making the team. I struggle with that interpretation. I will tell you, I have not changed. If Jamison Crowder is not your primary, I've said this a million times. I'm not stuttering. I'm not stammering. I'm not waffling. I'm not moving off the spot. If Jamison Crowder is your primary punt returner, then he's here. If he's not, then he's not on this roster. That's the way I see it. But he can help as a receiver, and that's the part that I struggle with, is he can actually help. It's good to see him back in the game and getting some touches. Jeff Driscoll, this was the one throw that I thought Driscoll missed in the game. and should have been a touchdown. And I wanted it for Mitchell Tinsley because Tinsley can't get right this preseason. He did everything right last preseason and made the team. He can't get right this preseason. Driscoll underthrows a wide open Mitchell Tinsley, and he ran a great route. Little stutter go, right? Give him a little like he was coming back and then took off on his ass, and he had about 3 yards of separation. And Driscoll underthrew that bitch severely. If he throws that back towards the back pylon, it's an easy touchdown. Defender ain't even close. But he threw it, allowed the defender back into play. And I thought Tinsley kind of mistimed his jump, didn't get high enough. I still thought he could have caught it, but it wasn't a good throw. He was put in a tough spot. That should have been a touchdown. And then Patterson comes on and makes it from 38 yards out, makes it 10-6 before the half. So now you get to the third quarter. Tyler Owens starts off the second half with a tackle for loss, but there's a penalty on the play on Taylor Stallworth that negates it. But it's just good to see number 40 flying up from the safety spot / big nickel and making a play, right? He just continues to flash. Continues to, as they say, continue to get your name called, right? Let's have it. Oh man, this one hurts. This one hurts. I gotta do it. Jeremy Reeves with another missed tackle. He had 2 in a row on this possession, including the missed tackle that led to the big run where Tyler Owens has to go make the touchdown saving tackle. And it's a good thing that he did because they ended up having to settle for a field goal. All right. Let's talk about Jeremy Reeves, man. Is there a chance that Jeremy Reeves misses this roster and is cut? Because I'm really starting to believe, and in my mind, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, no, not Revo, not all pro Revo. No, I won't stand for it. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. I don't. Shh. You know how somebody put their hand on your lip like this? Shh. You like, what you doing? Put your hand on my lips. What's wrong with you? Know where your finger been? That's how I feel like doing people who want to tell me Jeremy Reeves not making his roster. I saw it on Saturday night, though, or in this case, Monday night. I saw it. For the first time, my eyes were open, and I was like, Tyler Owens is making a hard charge. And Jeremy Reeves is missing tackles left and right. He missed. I just think Dan Quinn values Jeremy Reeves' experience, leadership. You can't cut Jeremy Reeves, right? Those were 2 big missed tackles, though. And he missed a big one last week. The one that allowed Manuel Forbes to get beat for the touchdown. That was Jeremy Reeves last week. He misses a tackle. The play where the guy reverses field, where it's like 6 commanders in pursuit. Reeves has him. He can't get him down. He spins out a Reeves tackle. Then Jamon Davis comes and dives at his ankles and misses, and he reverses field. Now he's pointing out defenders, and I'm like, oh, shit, there's probably a wall set up. This could be trouble. This could end up on the highlight reel. And then I think Owens came flying over there, and somebody else came and got his ass on the ground. And it only ended up being like a gain of 6. But it still was a missed tackle by Reeves. And then the next play is a big-ass run by some unknown running back I've never heard of. And while it was already a big run because he had already untouched before he met any resistance, he was already 12 yards up the field at the safety. But Reeves had an easy opportunity at getting his ass on the ground, and he whiffed. And next thing you know, this is like a 50-something yard run, and Tyler Owens has to go catch him. And I'm like, and you know, Reeves, All-Pro Revo was pissed after that. Pissed. We'll talk about it more. I still can't see a roster that doesn't include Jeremy Reeves on it. But I'm going to tell you this. He being Reeves, is making this shit more interesting than it needs to be. Because all he had to do was just make the routine play on defense, and we're not even having this conversation. I don't give a shit what Tyler Owens is doing. We're not even having this conversation. But because he keeps missing tackles, it's forcing me to ask questions that I really don't even want the answers to. Because I don't even want to ask the question. Truth be told, I feel like I'm making too much of this because Jeremy Reeves, if he's on the field, we're in trouble. Something's gone horribly wrong if he's on the field in a safety capacity. His calling card and claim to fame is special teams. He should not be on the field in a defensive capacity. We have so many safeties. We are so deep back there that we'd have to be down like 3 safeties for him to see the field. And theoretically speaking, that should not happen. So he should be fine. Theoretically speaking, he should be fine. I don't know about you. I like the play by Dominic Hampton on a PBU over the middle to the tight end. They called him for defensive pass interference, DPI. I didn't like the call. I thought it was good coverage. Did he have the offhand on him? Sure. I don't think he turned him, though. I don't think he hooked and turned him. I thought it was a real good play. I liked it, and good for the young fella. I told you I wanted to see the young fellas do something. I thought he did something there. I didn't like the call. Here's another guy that's pissing me off with missed tackles. Anthony Pittman. Another missed tackle. Like, I don't understand how you can be a core special teams fiend, which your claim to fame on special teams is that you get guys on the ground. That is what a special teams ace is supposed to be able to do. This is why you got the moniker or the tag of being a special teams ace, or as I like to call them, fiend. So how is it that our 2 best special teams players in Anthony Pittman and Jeremy Reeves can't get somebody on the damn ground? I don't understand it. Another damn missed tackle by Anthony Pittman. He's pissing me off in the missed tackle department. Noah Igbenogany with a tackle for loss on a hitch. Great play. That reminded me of Kendall Fuller. How we used to always say, hey, don't try that shit on Kendall Fuller's side. You want to throw a screen or a hitch? Do it on the other side. Don't do that shit on Kendall Fuller's side because Kendall going to sniff it out. That's what Noah Igbenogany did on this play. Every week, Noah Igbenogany is making a play to remind me of why he's the 5th corner on this team. I don't even think that's up for debate at this point. And then Javonte Jean-Baptiste with 2 plays on the possession. He had a tackle for loss, the one that the running back ended up getting hurt. The guy that had the big run, he got hurt on that play. Javonte Jean-Baptiste ran him down for about a 3-yard loss. And then he got the sack. Quarterback was running around, extend. And then Javonte Jean-Baptiste said, okay, enough of that shit. Got him down. Forced the field goal. 13-6. After the field goal was made. Luke McCaffrey with another catch, this time on 3rd down, a nice little shallow over route he caught and was able to get the 1st down there on 3rd down. So that's, again, good to see the young fellas getting involved. Then Ben Sinnott said, hey, let me get my 1 catch in here. Nice catch and run for a gain of 10. Drug 2-3 guys. He didn't get, tackled on the play. They couldn't get him down on the ground. This dude is a tough SOB, man. I love it. So a 1st down for him. I just made note of this. I'm just saying C-Rod was the 5th running back in the game. After, of course, B-Rob and Eck touched the field. We saw McNichols, the 3rd back. Then we saw Wiley as the 4th back. And C-Rod got in there as the 5th running back in the game. And he didn't get a lot of touches either. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure that C-Rod even got a carry. Did he get injured? I don't know because I didn't see a lot of him in the game. I I just know he was in there briefly and then he was out of there. I don't think he's making the team. I'm just going to be honest with you. We know they're either keeping 3 or 4, and McNichols is ahead of him, and Wiley seems to have, claimed pole position over him at this point. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Julian Good-Jones got steamrolled for a sack that ended this possession, and it was the last possession for Jeff Driscoll. So that's something to keep an eye on. He's been pretty solid as Julian Good-Jones, but he got ran over on that play for a sack. Jeremy Reeves had a big hit over on the left sideline, and that's when I knew he was pissed off. He had missed 2 tackles. He was probably beating himself up, and he's like, "Man, I'm hitting whatever moves," and he lit that dude up on that sideline. I actually thought they was about to hit him with a penalty. He hit him so hard. I don't know what the penalty was going to be. Personal foul, hitting a dude too goddamn hard, number 39, 15-yard penalty. That's what I thought they was about to call. He lit him up. Then he lit another dude up, and he hit him so hard he hurt himself. I was like, bro, you got to calm down. I know you upset you done missed tackles. And I'm like, part of the reason you miss is because you OC. Like, he didn't wrap up on either one of these tackles. He just threw his body. It was just like a big collision. He was pissed off. That's why he was hitting dudes like that, though. Jamon with a great redirect on boot. So they ran a boot. Jamon was lined up on the offense's left, the defense's right side at defensive end. They ran a boot to his side. They did not block him. They wanted him to chase the bait down the line, and he did not. He took a false step, and that allowed the quarterback to out-leverage him. But then you saw that speed on display. Jamon turned that bitch up, hit that, those afterburners and that accelerator, and he hawked the quarterback down and forced him to throw it out of bounds over the receiver's head. So you love to see it. That's something that Jamon offers you that nobody else really does at defensive end for us, is that ability, that just raw ability to go, right? The very next play after that, I lost my shit. Oh, I lost my shit. Watching Jamon perform a crossover so beautifully, you would have thought he was a defensive end for 8 years. This is a veteran's move right here. And generally, look, this is all you really need are 2 moves, right? Speed and then a counter to your speed. And if you got that, you can build off of that. But if as long as you got a counter to your speed, you can keep tackles guessing. And with Jamon's ability to get off the edge, like I saw him on another play almost win, and the tackle recovered at the last minute. You start threatening people's edges, they're going to open up that gate. Now, that's what happened on that play. Jamon acted as if he was going to threaten the edge. He opened up, and Jamon crossed him over. Bop. I'm inside now, and that's a direct path to the quarterback. When that gate's open, that's a direct path to the quarterback. And that ball came out, and I looked at Jamon, and I swear, the tear ducts started to well up. I was like, I knew you could do it. They said you couldn't do it, man. I knew you could do it. So proud of you, man. And then I looked on the sideline, and I see Deron Payne and Dorrance Armstrong and all of these dudes running out to the field, right? Deron was the first one. They so amped up for, like, I love this team, bro, because it's really a team. It's the same thing they did when Tress Way made the tackle. Like, they are genuinely happy when somebody makes a play, especially when they know how hard you work. They know Jamon been busting his ass trying to play defensive end. And to see it manifest itself in that way, could you imagine if we now have 2 situational pass rushers. I allow myself to dream sometimes, and I allow my mind to wander sometimes. And then I have to remember, hey, wait a minute now. You're doing that thing again. Remember that thing you did against the Vikings last year or 2 years ago? Where we had won, what was it, 4 games in a row? And we were heading to Philadelphia the following week. Or it was 3 games, excuse me. You won 3 games in a row, right? And we were heading to Philadelphia the following week. And you're up 17-7. And I think it was 17-7. And you allowed yourself, just for a minute, you allowed yourself, after that touchdown catch by Dax Milne, you allowed yourself to think about, what if we win this game? That's 4 in a row. We go into Philadelphia with all this momentum. We would ultimately beat them. Won the next 2 games. You're allowing yourself to think crazy. And we all saw how that turned out. And I had to remind myself, hey, calm down. It's just 1 sack against a 9th string tackle in a meaningless preseason game. But the fact that he still did it means he's capable of doing it. And that wasn't an easy move to perform. That crossover, you don't see a lot of guys doing it. Man, that was a thing of beauty. That was a thing of beauty. And to see that ball come out and us get it, I said I needed life. I needed a turnover. I said, please give me life. I turned into one of these old founding fathers. Give me a turnover or give me death. I thought I was prepared to die. We into the 3rd quarter. We still ain't turned them over yet. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm finna be on a stretcher after this game. It's a wrap for me. If ball is life, I'm about to be dead. And Jamon said, don't worry, I got an oxygen mask for your ass. We might have 2 situational pass rushers. I'm going to leave it at that. I was so proud of Jamon. Damn, I was proud of Jamon, man. What if? That's what I keep asking myself. What if? What if? Another big hit by Reeves, but he injures himself. I talked about that already. Missed opportunity for an interception by James Pierre. If you want to get in the good graces of the staff, the one thing we aren't doing right now is taking it away. You got an opportunity to take it away. You got to take it away. He's sitting there in zone coverage, key in quarterback's eyes. He's in perfect position. Quarterback throws it right to him. Yeah, it's a little high. He's got to extend, maybe slightly outside of his frame, but that ball went right through his hands. Catch the damn ball. That was the end of the 3rd quarter. Let's wrap this thing up quickly. AJ Woods got a slot corner sack on a blitz. That was nice. And then they missed the field goal. Hey, how about that? Right? So it's still 13-6. We still got a shot. Cole Turner with the first of 2 drops. Both of the passes that Cole Turner dropped that went through his hands, they had hot sauce to go. Cole Turner on the first pass, I think he was 5 yards away from Trace McSorley, and Trace McSorley threw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. I was like, Trace, what the hell are you doing? He's right in front of you, bro. I don't think Cole was expecting it to come out that hot. He still got to catch the damn ball. I get it, man. That's like turning the jug machine all the way up and being like 5 yards in front of it. But the only difference is that the jug machine has been turned all the way up, so you expecting it to come out that hot. When you that close to the quarterback, you're not expecting the ball to come out that hot. Still need to catch that bitch, though. The second one, yes, there was hot sauce to go on it. Unnecessarily, I may add. Maybe even slightly behind you. Catch the damn ball out of your hands into the defender's hands. And if not for a strip by Martavis Bryant, the game's over. Catch the damn ball. It's been a very frustrating preseason for Cole Turner. penalties, drops, you name it, he's done it. Luke McCaffrey back on punt returns. That was pretty interesting. I actually wanted to see what that looked like because in my mind, I'm like, it's Dax Milne back there. And I need him to just have one return where he goes, bitch, don't call me Dax Milne ever again. I just needed him to do it one time. And they wouldn't kick the ball to Luke McCaffrey. He even fair caught one at the 5 like Dax Milne would. And I was like, what are you doing back there, buddy? I just need him to remind me he's not Dax Milne one time. That's it. One time for the one time. Kaz Allen was getting some carries at running back. And for a second, he was getting busy. And then he reminded me that he's Kaz Allen and that he's like 5'8", 180 pounds. And he's not a running back. So he fumbled. I said, well, there goes that experiment. Good job, Kaz. They trying to find ways to see creatively if they can carve out a roster spot for you. And you're not helping them. Good catches by Colson Yankoff and Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint. Jack Saints came down the sideline in the honey hole of cover 2. Colson Yankoff out in the flats, ball a little high outside his frame, climbed the ladder, went and got it. Got a gain of about 6 or 7 out of it. Then on the final drive of the game, Michael Wiley had 2 big catches on the final drive, one on the 4th down, and the other on a 2nd down, I want to believe. And he got out of bounds on both of those catches, which was big because it stopped the clock, forced us to not have to rush nor use a timeout. And then end of the game situation, 4th down, you're down there, and Mitchell Tinsley, look, it wasn't the greatest throw by Trace McSorley. All right. And you got to credit Trace McSorley for even being in that game, in that spot to give you a chance because the man hadn't practiced a single rep with this squad. He was at home on his sibling's couch when he got the phone call and he showed up and helped us in a preseason game when we were down 2 quarterbacks. So shout out to Trace McSorley for coming in and even giving you a shot. No, it wasn't a great ball. It was slightly behind him, and it was a wobbly duck. It was a wounded duck that looked like it had been shot out of the air. Still, catch the damn ball. It hit him in both hands. That should have been a touchdown. Worst case scenario, if it's not a touchdown, it's a 1st down. We call a timeout. Your quarterback sneak it, and then you go for 2 and see if you can't steal one, right? Anyway, he drops it. Game over. We lose 13-6. So while there weren't a bunch of points scored, the defense stepped up, made plays to prevent the Dolphins from scoring a bunch of points. And our field goal kicking situation doesn't feel any better coming out of this game. As a matter of fact, you could argue it feels worse because at least when we had 2 kickers, one of them hadn't missed in the game yet. But plenty of time still left to find yourself a new kicker. There are going to be many kickers released here over the next 2 weeks. We'll see if they find someone off the scrap heap or if they just continue to have patience with Riley Patterson. Big takeaways from this game. Obviously, Jayden Daniels cemented QB1 status, which we already knew. We talked about it last week. Matter of fact, me and somebody else said after this game, I said on Monday, they'll probably announce. I said either Monday, if they treat it like a real week of practice, which they said they were going to, then we wouldn't hear from him on Monday. We'd hear from him on Wednesday. I said, whenever we hear from Dan Quinn the next time, he'll announce that Jayden Daniels is the starting quarterback. And he did today. But after that game, everybody walked away saying, all right, what are we waiting on? Let's make the announcement. And they did today. Tyler Owens is making a push to make this roster. I don't think he's going to make it. But he continues to flash. I think they like what they've seen from him, as they should. De'Ami Brown is emerging as like a real number 2 receiver. Who would have thought at this point that De'Ami would look like the 2nd best receiver on this team? I still think it's Jahan Dotson, but De'Ami's making plays. The more, the merrier. The more, the merrier. I'm not one of these people that, wants to cut off my nose to spite my face. If we can get Diami to look good, just as good or better than Jahan, that means it's heightening the level of play at the receiver position, because we know what we're getting out of Terry. I think Jahan's going to be just really solid. And if Diami's playing better than him, now you got 3 good options at that point, with a Luke McCaffrey and a Olamide Sakia still in the rear, that's good. You feel good about OZ as your 4th option, right? So, and then how about Jamon Davis, man? Wowzers. What a game by him. So happy for him. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. We're going to go ahead and get into your comments here in a second, but we got another quick ad to throw in here real quick. So we'll get a word from one of our sponsors. You know who it is. This stream is powered by BetUs.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
So Fat American starts us off. Fat American, been a member for 27 months. Really appreciate you. Fat American writes, "Hey, yo, Lou. How you doing, bro? Miss y'all, man. Dang. It's always good to hear from you, Fat American, man. And I always know when the seasons get near, because that's when you appear. So good to have you back in the saddle. Look forward to chopping it up with you. And hopefully we'll be talking about some good football that will help you forget all about the 2005 season. I think this defense is going to be really good this season. Still got questions about the secondary, but I think this defense is going to be pretty good when it's all said and done." Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Fat American writes, "Lou, can I just say something, man? I am pleased with JD5 preseason debut so far. The team appears to be better coached as well. Like these boys coming to play. Haven't seen this mentality since, man, do I have to say it? No, you don't. I know exactly where you're going. So this is a much better coach team, but we already knew that was going to be the case. I think we all felt that way. We love the staff that Dan Quinn assembled. Before they coached a single game, we felt like this is going to be an extraordinary staff, and they have given me no reason to believe otherwise thus far. It's looked clean. These players seem motivated. There seems to be a real bond and brotherhood formed. So, the message that DQ has tried to get across to the team seems to be working. And all of this is new. So when something's young, fresh, and new, these are the vibes, right? You ever been in a relationship? It's like almost nothing can go wrong at the beginning. You're in that honeymoon phase. It's all great. And then as time passes, it's not the same feeling. It's easy to fall into that trap now. I want to see what happens, into the future. But right now, it's all great, right? And a prime example is the Giants, right? First season under Brian Daboll, honeymoon phase. It's all great. They win, 9 games, make the playoffs, win a playoff game. Shit's sweet. And they haven't had any success, in the aftermath of that so far. But we'll see what happens, right? I just love the direction that we're heading in. We just haven't seen this in a very long time. So feels good. Feels good. Feels good. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Swaggy P writes, "Well, Hoot. MF to you too, Lou. He's referring to my X post that I had. I said any late owls, night owls out there. And I did a post with a owl saying, hoot, mother F. Yeah. So shout out to my guy, Swaggy P. He says, national media is giving a bunch of praise to a Washington quarterback. Even Miami's media was doing it during the joint practice. I think we got ourselves a franchise guy after only seeing 3 drives. Hashtag HTTC. I don't want to jump the gun, but man, I feel really good too. I really, truly do. This kid has all the intangibles. He's got it upstairs. He's got the mental makeup, like football acumen wise, but then personality wise, he gets it. Nothing just seems to rattle his cage. He seems to be cool, calm, and collected in every single situation. Obviously, we haven't seen him in every single situation yet, but he just seems to get it on and off the field, in and outside of the huddle, in and outside of the pocket. I think we might have a winner chicken dinner on our hands, but I always like to be a little cautious when it comes to quarterbacks, specifically with this organization. I still have some serious battle scars and PTSD, so I got to see it, and then I got to see it for more than 1 year too. Like I'm still like, even though CJ Stroud looks really good in the preseason, I'm still looking at CJ Stroud like, you sure you gonna do this again? You serious? I'm a big do it again guy. We saw what Jalen Hurts did last year. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't close to what he did the year prior when he was in the MVP discussion, right? So I'm just really skeptical. I need to see it, then I need to see it again. And then after I see it again, I'm like, all right, yeah, all right, you got it. You got the juice. But man, it feels good. I cannot tell a lie. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, interesting how it looks like Jayden has more chemistry with Diami than Sam Howell did. Yeah, but also Diami didn't get a lot of looks. He didn't get a lot of opportunities with that last group. Hell, nobody really did, other than the tight end. Again, they thought this was the Chiefs' offense. Eric Bieniemy thought this was the Chiefs and that we had Travis Kelce. So it really it didn't favor anybody. Terry, Jahan, Diami, nobody really benefited from the offense, the way it was coached. And then the way it was executed too. Sam wasn't innocent in all of that. But yeah, Diami looks like a totally different receiver this year. And I was talking to my guy Derek B. He had said that B-Rob looks poised for a big season this year. And I said, it was never based on ability. It's always based on opportunity with B-Rob. If he got more opportunities, he would have already been producing at a high level. We've never once questioned B-Rob's ability. It's always been based off of how many touches is he going to get? How many opportunities to affect the game is he actually going to get? Because if he gets the touches, he's going to produce the yards. I think he's going to get the opportunities this year. Kind of feel that way about Diami and Jahan. Like, I don't think it's based off of ability. I still question if Diami is as fast as people say he is. But I've seen Diami make plays. I've seen him get on top of guys. Pause. I've seen him make big plays down the field. So I know he's capable. I told you last year or 2 years ago, Diami had some big catches. So, yeah, the chemistry is definitely there between those two, without question. I'm pulling for Diami. I really am. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, welcome back, bruh. Really appreciate it. Couple things. First and foremost, that boy Daniels looks good, man. I told y'all 2 years ago to keep an eye on this kid. Well, you're an LSU fan, so you definitely told us that you thought he had a chance to be good. I didn't think he was going to be good 2 years ago. It wasn't until this year that he really impressed me enough for me to be like, yo, this kid might have something. But you were on it, being an LSU fan. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, secondly, the lack of cornerback and DN depth scares me. I don't know if the defensive end depth scares me as much as the cornerback depth does. Defensive end, I think you can circumvent that with the defensive tackles and, Jamon Davis and just, Frankie Louvu and how those guys plays. Frankie Louvu lines up on third downs sometimes as an edge rusher. Like, you can circumvent the defensive end position, right? You can find ways to be solid there and get away with it because you have different guys that can fill different roles and they can blitz and, do faux blitzes and things of that nature that puts you in a position where you can minimize the lack of a true difference-making edge. Or even, as you mentioned, the depth of the position, I think it's fine, right? Especially if you get F.A. Obata back at some point. It's the cornerback depth that should worry you because God forbid anything happen to any of those guys. Like, you could talk all the shit you want about Forbes. He's trash, he's this, he's that. Well, if anything happens to him, like it did last year, you're down to 2 boundary corners. Anything happens to one of those guys, and you're a James Pierre, Chigozie, Anusium. What's the dude name from Penn State? I actually thought he played well in the Dolphins game. I always forget his name with the hyphenated name. But you're one or two injuries away from one of those dudes being pulled up from the practice squad and getting an opportunity. That should scare you to death. So, at some point, that could come into play. Let's hope that it doesn't. I'm still on the Michael Davis train and him being as good as Ronald Darby was in 2020. I'm still on that, and I'm not moving off of that spot, and we'll see if he even gets the opportunity to do that. You have every right to be a little nervous about the depth at certain positions, and cornerback is definitely one of them for me. Don Everhart, thank you for your generosity. Greatly appreciate you, Don. Gifting 10 memberships. Shout out to all the brand new members via Don's graciousness. Don Everhart, thank you for being a great giver. 10 new memberships. Thank you so much for your generosity. Brandon N. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Brandon writes, Lou, what's up with the LB depth? Who can we trust? What's crazy is that I thought the linebacker depth was crazy when this process started. I was like, yo, I got 6 linebackers making a roster. I think I was a little bit hasty there. I think the number's 5. They might like Anthony Pittman more than I do. I don't like Anthony Pittman. Now, he might be a standout. And the same thing I said about Jeremy Reeves, he might be a standout special teams player. And if that is, in fact, the case, which is why they signed him, to begin with, then there should be a roster spot with his name on it because you don't expect him to have to play middle linebacker for you at all. Because before you get to him, you've got obviously Bobby Wagner, then you've got Michael Walker, and then you get to Anthony Pittman. And if that goes off the way that it's supposed to, he should never have to see the field, right? So he should be allowed to do the thing that he was brought here to do, which is just play special teams. But six linebackers, the six that I had, just so we're on the same page. Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Jamon Davis were the first three guys. Then it was Michael Walker, Anthony Pittman, and Jordan McGee. And that's the guy that's missing in all of this. If McGee is healthy, and he got hurt, and we don't know when he'll be back. He was supposed to be killing it in the preseason. And he was the guy that was going to be able to make me feel really comfortable about Anthony Pittman not being here. His absence puts a little bit more pressure on maybe needing a guy like Anthony Pittman to stick around. But they're going to keep McGee. I don't think the injury is serious. He should be ready for the start of the season. Pittman seems very expendable at this point. Give me the five-man rotation of Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Jamon Davis, Jordan McGee, and Michael Walker. I think the depth at the linebacker position is just fine with those five guys. You want to be extreme, you want to keep six, Pittman will be the sixth guy. But I feel good about the linebacker position. 5 or 6, I feel good. The depth is there. Don Everhart, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Don Everhart, writes, DQ was nice to Patterson because for now, he's all we have. I believe that our kicker is currently not on the roster. I agree with that assessment. I don't think our kicker is on the roster right now. And I said that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, when it was just Reeves, when it was both of these chumps. I said, I don't think the kicker's here. Even when I did my 53-man roster projections earlier on in the summer, I gave the nod to Riley Patterson because he had just gotten here, and I just didn't think it was going to be Reeves Ahmed. I was pretty confident that it wouldn't be him. So I gave it to Riley Patterson, but I said, I still don't know if our kicker is even on the roster. And after seeing this guy start the preseason off, what is he now? 2 of 5 in 2 games. I don't think he's the answer either. But we'll see. That joint practice against the Dolphins gave them a false sense of hope going into the preseason game, and then he shit all over that hope. But they still holding on to the fact that what he did in that joint practice and what he's done over the life of his NFL career, he's been a pretty accurate kicker throughout his career. So they're going to hang on to that. But I don't like what I'm seeing from this dude. That's for sure. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Duncan, writes, hey, Lou, I listened to you for an hour and I feel like I wasted an hour. Can you say something good about the Eagles so my time wasn't wasted? Sure, I can say something nice about the Eagles. The Eagles suck ass. I lied. No, I can't say anything nice about the Eagles. Get lost. No, I'm kidding. I need you to go look in that mirror like I told you before. You know the mantra. You know what to say. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, man, I really like the Commanders. I know you do. You know you do. So why you keep trying to fight it? That's why you show up to these streams. Because you want to hear about the Commanders. Just admit it. It's okay. We will embrace you. We will embrace you. And look, man, There's a lot of space left on the bandwagon, but hey, get in here now before Jayden Daniels takes off and it starts to get crowded in here. Reserve your spot now. Duncan Wright. Been a member for 7 months. My guy, Duncan Wright. We end this with Commanders suck. Ha 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 ha. We'll see about that. I can't wait till we play y'all. We gotta wait a little while. I think the first time we see y'all is on a Thursday night, I believe, or is it Monday? So it's one of them in week 7 or 8. I think it's 8. That should be fun. We love nothing more than to come to your house and crash the party and be disrespectful. Look forward to doing that again this year with a real QB. Joe Rockhead. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Joe Rockhead, writes, I feel good about Jayden. He says, oh, man, I thought you was singing Tony, Tony, Tony. You switched it up about me. Canday by LL Cool J. I don't know that one. You got me. You got me on that one. I can't sing it to that one. He said, but I'm not excited yet. You've been consistent saying that you feel good, but you're not gonna get excited yet. It's that classic, I want to be excited. I want to dive in the pool, but I'm afraid. So I'm going to just continue to stick my toe in the water and maybe even sit down and put my feet in the water, right? But I don't want to get all the way in for fearing that something's going to go wrong and I'm going to allow myself to get excited only for them to pull the old Lucy with the football on Charlie Brown, right? Like, I'm telling you. So if you set correct expectations, then you shouldn't have to worry about that happening this year. If you're gonna do the 11-win thing, then yeah, you should do what you're doing. If that's your mindset that this team should win 11 games, then you shouldn't allow yourself to get too excited because they're probably not going to do that. But if you set realistic expectations, there's nothing wrong with you feeling good about where this team is heading. Because they're not going to fall flat on their face. This isn't Ron Rivera here. This isn't Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew picking the players and the draft picks. And we've seen how bad it's been. We've seen the residue left from failed drafts of the last 2-3 years. I mean, we're not even talking 5-6 years ago. We're talking 2-3 years ago. Draft classes have failed epically. There's nobody left from the 2020 draft on this team right now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe one guy. I don't think there's a single player left from the 2020 draft on this roster. That was 5 years ago. Not one guy. And we can keep going. We can keep going. So, honestly speaking, I get it. But if you set reasonable expectations, let your inhibitions go, right? This team is they're going to do the things that you expect a team to do, like compete every single week. They're going to be in ball games. They're going to be well coached. They're not going to beat themselves consistently. There'll be 1 or 2 games this season where they just didn't look good. And we're going to leave that game saying, well, that was a shit show. But that's what happens with young teams. There are going to be 1 or 2 of those stinkers in there where you just go, that was rough. But that's what happens to young teams. There are also going to be games in there where you didn't expect to win or that level of competitiveness, and they're going to be right there with a chance to win, or they're going to steal 1 or 2 of those. And you're going to feel really good. That's what young teams do. Understand what your expectations are, set it at a reasonable level, and you won't be disappointed. If you set them too high, then you're going to be, if you set them too high, I won't say that it's unreasonable unless you're talking, 12 or, 11. If you set it at 10, I think you're stretching it a bit too far, but that's not unreasonable expectations. I still think they're not going to happen, but it's not unreasonable. 11 or 12 feels unreasonable and unattainable. Not saying that it can't happen, but the likelihood is that won't happen. 10, the ball bounces our way. Jayden Daniels is this ridiculous, remarkable rookie like CJ Stroud was last year. The defense is what I think, and the special teams doesn't kill us. Like, we actually find a real field goal kicker, and we're not giving up kickoff returns and punt returns for touchdowns. Yeah, I could see it happening, right? It's not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination, though. But you take care of business in the division. And when I say take care of business, win more than you lose. So that means 4 or more wins in the division. At worst, 3 wins in the division. But if you really are serious about winning 10 games, you need to win at least 4 games in your division. You got teams like the Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears. Again, I don't think the Bears are going to be trash. I don't think you can look at the Panthers or the Cardinals with your nose turned down at them or up at them, because you're in the same boat as those teams, right? But there are winnable games on the schedule, is what I'm getting at. And then if you can find a way to beat a Cleveland or Pittsburgh, anything could happen. Highly unlikely you beat Baltimore or Cincinnati, but stranger things have happened, right? You look up, all of a sudden, you got 8 or 9 wins going into the last game of the season against Dallas, and then see what you got, right? So we'll see. Just set reasonable expectations, and then you'll be fine. It's when you don't, that's when you get disappointed. Jamal Hamlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Jamal writes, Lou, I saw game adjustments. Wow. Forgot what those look like. And I think AP really like Chris Paul, and it was confirmed on Commander's log. I do think they like Chris Paul. And I think you're referring to the clip of AP talking to him at the Senior Bowl when they were watching his brother. And speaking of which, his brother plays for the Miami Dolphins. So they swapped jerseys after the game, and the Commanders had a social media post about that. But he was talking to Adam Peters at the Senior Bowl, and it seemed genuine. And just because I like you off the field doesn't mean I like you on the field as a player. But I think they like Chris Paul. I think you're right. I mean, I think they feel like they found something with him playing tackle. And I don't know about you, and I get it. He hasn't seen the best level of competition, and part of the reason why he kicked inside the guard at the NFL level is because we didn't think he had good enough feet to stay outside at tackle, and that may very well be the case. And this is a false sense of hope that they're getting in these preseason games because you're not playing against the other team's, best pass rushers. But he hasn't given up too many pressures. I can't recall him giving up a sack yet at tackle. So far, so good for him. The more you can do. Right now, Chris Paul can play both guards and now right tackle. He's all but solidified a spot with his ability to play tackle now. If there was ever any doubt, any question about his roster spot, I think that's been, nailed shut at this point by his ability to play tackle. Maurice Amos, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Maurice writes, what's up, Lou? I got a good feeling I was right about Jamon being good at edge, but I'm not drinking too much of the punch. And has your expectations risen? I'm hopeful. I can't say that I'm 100% sold on the experiment going in our favor, but boy, I like where it's heading right now. Like that was a massive step in the right direction. That was a really good game by Jamon. He did a lot of good things in this game. The batted ball, the redirect on the boot, and then the sack for his fumble. Like Jamon played his ass off, and you're seeing incremental gains, which is what you want. And I think the performance in this past game gives you enough confidence that not only can he make this team as an off the ball linebacker, but he gives you more depth at defensive end. He showed the ability to set a physical edge against the Jets and stop the run at 240 pounds, let's call him. And that's probably being generous and, giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's probably more like 235, 238, but we're going to call him 240. And for him to set a physical edge and make tackles, that shows a lot. And then the following week to be able to then put some pass rush moves together and get to the quarterback, force a fumble, our first turnover forced of the preseason, it speaks volumes as to the growth that we've seen from Jamon in this short period of time. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I am excited and encouraged by what I've seen. Yes, my expectations have risen, but not to the point where I'm expecting anything yet. It's risen to the point now where I'm like, hey, I wouldn't mind seeing it in a real game situation with Jamon Davis, coupled with, Dante Fowler Jr., Dorrance Armstrong, and one of the defensive tackles all on the field at the same time, looks like. Or, a Jamon Davis, Frankie Louvu, Dante Fowler Jr., Dorrance Armstrong grouping looks like on a third down and long. I wouldn't mind seeing that. All right. Like I'm like, all right, I'm envisioning packages where you get Jamon Davis on the field. So yeah, they've risen, but not to the point where I'm like, yo, Jamon might be able to get us 7 sacks this year. I'm not talking crazy yet. But would I be shocked if Jamon got you 4.5 sacks this year? Not at all. Not at all. If Casey Toohill can get you 4.5 sacks, James Smith-Williams can get you 4.5 sacks, Jamon Davis can get you 4.5 sacks. I think he can do that. The real question is, can he get you 7? 6.5, 7. That's difference-making sacks right there. When you get from a situational rusher, when you're getting 7 sacks in a season from a situational rusher, that's putting in work. Anything above 6 from a situational pass rusher, that guy's putting in work. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. Feels good to be back. Feels good. Feels good. I'll be back tomorrow with another Command Post live stream talking about the press conferences from yesterday. Dan Quinn had an almost 30-minute press conference today or yesterday. Jayden Daniels had a 10-minute presser, which I think was his longest since his introductory one. So a lot was said yesterday. A couple of things happened while I was gone that I haven't touched on, like the uniform dates being released. They have not released when they'll be wearing the gold pants. So I think that's an interesting topic to discuss. But just the different games that they'll be wearing the jerseys in, I do want to talk about that briefly, among other topics. And then we'll talk about some other things that I think are really interesting. It's one in particular that I want to talk about with you guys. And so I'll save all of that for the next stream. But in any event, You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Just wanted to give this quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this live stream. Once again, if you'd like to sign up for BetUS, use my link that is down in the description of this video. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm back. Did you miss me? I missed you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.